Jason Nichols is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Maryland and a frequent guest on the show, we are proud to say. Professor, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
So you just heard that kind of amazing story. I didn't know that. Tel Aviv, 55,000 illegal immigrants living there. The working class residents of the town said crime is going up. We're against this. Government of Israel builds a southern border wall, not to keep terrorists out, but to keep illegal aliens out. And no one in this country says anything. Is that immoral?
So I think there are lots of big differences between Israel and the United States. First of all, we know that crime has gone down in the United States steadily since 1991. Immigrants commit, both legal and undocumented, commit fewer crimes than Americans like you and I.
I don't know. I don't think that number is true. But leaving that aside,
but that's absolutely.
I don't believe it is actually. I think immigrants in the country commit crimes at a higher proportion.
No,
legal.
that's.
Okay,
we can look that up.
Separate debate. Okay, I'll even grant you that you're right in that. But why is it? And by the way, I just want to be totally clear. I support Israel's right to protect its own borders. It's a country; it gets to do that if it wants. But why is it immoral when we do it here, according to the Democratic Party, but not immoral when our closest ally in the region does it?
Well, again, part of this is because of the motivation that Mr. Trump has brought into this discussion. Also, the fact that I think there were certain things that the mayor said that were inaccurate. If you look at at immigration to the United States in the early 20th century, whether it was Jews, Italians, other groups, crime actually did go up. They were blamed for everything. They were blamed, they brought Cosa Nostra. They were blamed for all of these kinds of things. But when we want to sanitize our historical memory.
That's right. I mean, history changes over time, and we shut down immigration.
We say, oh, they were just here to work hard.
Well, okay,
and I'm sure they.
It's all complicated, but what's not complicated is that our closest ally in the region, our biggest recipient of American aid, built this wall, and the same people who supported building that wall, I'm one of them who supported it, are now telling us that an effort to protect our southern border in exactly the same way is, quote, immoral and racist. And I'm just wondering, what is the standard?
Well, when you're going around and you're saying that the people from our South are rapists and that they commit crimes when you actually don't have any empirical evidence to back it up, it sounds pretty much like it's xenophobic and racist.
You don't like Trump. Which is
not about
totally
Trump.
Fine, but how about
I have no feelings about Trump.
How about just taking Trump out of it? His motives, what he says. A lot of people would like a wall on our border, and they're confused because they hear Pelosi and Schumer say, "Well, a fence is fine, but a wall is immoral." What is the distinction exactly?
Well, I think again that the fence is not, even a fence is not necessarily what is going to lead to border security. And I think you and I actually agree. I read your book, so which is actually a fabulous book. But
thank you.
I will tell you, when I read your book, the problems that exist with immigration, and I think Mike Pence actually has it correct, actually start in Central America. It's not at our border. So if we want to solve this problem, and if we're trying to stop, the things that the right talks about, the flow of drugs, one of the things that many experts say is that a wall or fence or any of that is not going to stop that. They're going to fly drones. They're going to find other ways around that.
Why did it work in Israel? I mean,
we need to help.
We need to help them get better, those countries.
Within their borders, people oftentimes don't really want to be here. That's the other thing.
Well, so I guess, there are a couple of things, but I'll just focus on one. So, lots of people have tried to make Honduras a better country, a lot of great Hondurans. But the country itself, beginning with the government, is dysfunctional, okay? That's why Hondurans and Guatemalans want to move here. So what would be the plan for fixing those countries to the point where they would have such a high standard of living and be so peaceful that people wouldn't want to leave? Is there a secret formula that none of us know? I
think, the reason that it's dysfunctional, and again, having read your book, is U.S. intervention that happened throughout the late 70s and early 80s.
So you're saying that Guatemala and Honduras weren't dysfunctional before the United States for reasons that are unclear?
I would say that the thing that brought people to our borders and that has caused both documented and undocumented immigration that has driven that has been the wars that we have created that have cost thousands upon thousands of lives.
Well, we didn't. I'm against most foreign intervention, including there. I agree with you there. But we didn't create those wars. Of course, we intervened in them because we thought it was in our interest.
We propped up the Contras.
We may have. We certainly did, but we didn't create the Sandinista Marxist revolution that enslaved the country of Nicaragua, of course. Well, but really quick, my question is. So what does that mean now? Does it mean that because we feel so bad about something that our leaders did 30 years ago, we have to pay the penance of illegal immigration? Does it mean we have an obligation to fix those countries? If so, how do we do that?
I think, investment and partnership with democratically elected leaders in those countries.
Where's that worked? Anywhere ever? Has that ever worked? Because we spend all this money abroad, and it seems to just make the countries more corrupt and the average person poorer and more desperate to come here. Has it ever worked?
Well, I think that there are certainly ways that we can do this where it would work, and we've always had the goal of colonizing a place when we actually try to help them. And I think the best bet is to go enter into partnerships with democratic.
So how about this one? Since we're in the reparations business, and boy, I'm open-minded about everything, as you know. But if we owe Latin America something, what if they flooded our communities with drugs and killed, I don't know, 50,000, 70,000 people a year?
What would still wouldn't equal the amount of people we killed there.
I don't think that's right, actually. A year. So more people die of drug ODs in this country every year than died in all of Vietnam Americans over 11 years. So what do they owe us? Anything?
So again, we're going to disagree about.
Just wondering if it's a two-way street. Yeah. I mean, can we collect for the fentanyl epidemic? It seems like we should.
Yeah, well, again, I think that the fentanyl epidemic has many different layers to it. It's not just coming from Central America.
No, it's a lot of it's coming from China, but a lot of it's moving through Mexico. So I'm just wondering, what does Mexico owe us for killing tens of thousands
Well, again, we were talking about Central America. We weren't talking about Mexicans.
Sure.
Oh, they're all the same? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. We've learned recently that nobody dislikes Central Americans more than the people of Mexico. I actually like Central Americans. The average citizen in Tijuana does not feel that way, not as open-minded as I am, I would say that. Professor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
France, moving to